Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Jessica if you are. This is my Pan Those Eyeshadows update for the month of October 2024, and I am very excited to film this video today. I'm excited to bring in a new shade, and I'm just feeling very filmy right now, if you know what I mean. Like, my hair is done. I'm really liking my makeup look. I don't really have anything I have to be doing right now, so I'm just feeling very relaxed, very ready to be on camera, and ready to update you all on my eyeshadows that I've been working on over the past several months. Or should I say several weeks? Some of them several months, well, a couple months, some of them just a couple weeks. I did just vote just now. I had my mail-in ballot, so I decided to stick this sticker on for the video as well to remind all of you to go out and vote. The general election is on November 5th. It's an important one, and make sure you show up to the polls. One last thing before we jump into this video, let's all just take a moment of appreciation for my eyeshadow look today. I am loving it. I created this look solely using the Nomad Cosmetics Haunted Europe palette, and I really love the cool tones and how it came out. I brought this palette into my deck of painting, and I am just loving it for the month of October. So I used some cool tones in the crease, and then that one just to deepen it up a little bit. This one to really get that depth into the edge of the eye. And then I use these two navy shimmers on the eye and this one on the inner part of the lid and all through the inner corner and all that. So loving this palette. It's been really fun to have out in October, and I'm excited to keep reaching for it. I'm ready for a night out, which is what I'm doing tonight. I'm going out with my sister tonight. We're going to go to a concert. We're going to go dancing at the Bill Graham in San Francisco. And first, I get to catch up with all of you and talk about eyeshadow. So what a great Saturday. Let's jump right into this video. If you didn't know, Pan Those Eyeshadows was started many years ago by a YouTuber named Alexi, and everyone who does this project kind of does it in their own way. My particular rules are that I'm always working on 4 eyeshadows at a time, ultimately with a goal to hit pan on them. But if I use them at least 30 times and over a course of at least 3 months and I still have not hit a pan, then I do allow myself to roll out that shade, especially if I think I'm so far from reaching that pan and it would take me just 3 more months to even get close. That strategy gets me to my goal most of the time, and if it doesn't, I'm still getting really good use on that shade and on that palette. I like my rules. They're a little bit more difficult, but I like having that challenge, and I'm still getting to have some control because I'm using a combination of Lainey's prompts. Makeup with Lainey, I think her name is, created 100 prompts that you can select from randomly and then helps you to choose your own color kind of. And then I'm also randomly generating my other 2 shades. So I've got a nice mixture of random and choice, and that has been really fun to do this year. So let's start off with that first shade, the one I've been working on now for 3 months in this project, and it comes from my ABH the Sultry palette. I randomly generated the shade in here, Bloom. Right here is the Swatch of Bloom. It's a very bright coral matte pink, and it has been fun to reach for, but also a little tiring because pinks have just not been able to get away from me this entire year. So having one in for 30 uses was definitely a bit of a challenge. Here's what it was looking like when I first brought it into the project. It was barely touched at that point. I reached for it 7 times in the first month, and here's what it was looking like then. In the second month, I reached for it 9 additional times, making for 16 uses total, and here's what it was looking like after 16 uses. And then in this third month, I was able to reach for it 14 more times, reaching my 30 use goal, and here's what Bloom is looking like today. And I reached it exactly 30 times, and I think if you looked at it and you didn't know any better, you would think I've maybe used this shade, I don't know, maximum 10 times. There is not much of a dip in there at all to show for you after 30 uses, but I did get those 30 uses. I promise you, I used this in so many different ways. I feel like just in those last few uses, I was finally able to see a slight little disturbance, a little swoop into the shape of that pan, but not much to show at all. Barely probably anything you can pick up on camera. It's a very stubborn shade, so this one is rolling out after meeting all of that criteria and still not even getting close to a pan. And while I do love this palette, I really haven't been reaching much into the other shades. Really just been coming into this palette to reach for Bloom and get my uses on it. And that's kind of a bummer. I think I maybe reached for a shimmer once or twice, but maybe next time I bring this palette in, I'll work on one of those shimmers, or I will just have more time to devote to more of the palette. Overall, I love this palette. I'm excited to put it back into my drawer, but I wouldn't mind if it comes back into a project pretty soon. These next few shades came in just last month, so they're all pretty new. First one comes from the ABH Jackie AA palette, another ABH palette in this project. I brought this palette in when I drew one of Lainey's prompts last update. It was for the palette that has the most pans in it, and with 6 pans, this one tied for another palette, and I decided to go ahead and work on something in here. And then I randomly generated the shade that I'm working on. It is this dark chocolate brown called Credit. So here's what Credit was looking like when I brought it in last month. I reached for it 13 times this month, which I'm very happy with, mostly as a liner topper. And here's what it's looking like today after those 13 uses. And I wasn't expecting to see this, but we are starting to get a pretty nice looking dip in that shade with those 13 uses. And it makes me feel encouraged that I might be able to hit pan on this before the next update. If I really go in for it, reach for it almost every single day as my liner topper, then I think I should get there, if not very, very close. So didn't think that was going to happen. It is such a rich pigmented shade, but because it's the ABH formula that we all love, or I really love, it's so blendable and easy to use, it might go a lot faster than I anticipated. So excited for that. That would make 7 pans in this palette, which is halfway there. And I would love to work on this more, but you know, we have certain things that we just need a little break from. So would be excited to have this rolled out by the next update. We shall see. If not, I'm very confident I will hit pan on it within those 3 months. Shade number 3 comes from my BH Cosmetics Lost in Los Angeles palette. I brought this in last month with Lainey's prompt, something that starts with the letter S. I decided to reach for a letter S in here and landed on this beautiful gold shimmer shade called Starstruck. I'm working on a lot of golds right now. I'm a little bit on gold overload, but who doesn't love a gold in the fall? You know, there are worse things. So here's what Starstruck looked like when I first brought this into the project. It was used maybe once or twice, but not much wear on it at all. I was able to reach for this shade 10 times, which is great. And here's what it's looking like today. And you'll see that there is a dip starting to form in Starstruck. Nothing huge, nothing major, but it's satisfying to see the progress after those 10 uses. And I have just recently hit pan on Sunset Boulevard, I think earlier this year. And that one took me 21 uses to hit pan on, and then another use to get that size of pan. So it's gonna take me a few more uses to hit pan on Starstruck, at least around 12. But I think if I am dedicated to the shade, I will be able to have a pan on it by the next update. I think I can squeeze in 12 uses of a gold pretty easily. So that will be my goal for that one. And this last palette and shade was randomly generated, and it is from my Makeup Geek Manny MUA palette. I'm working on this red matte shade right here called Mars. So here's what Mars was looking like when I first brought this into the project last month. It was barely touched at all. I only reached for it 5 times this month, but 5 is better than nothing. And here's what it's looking like today after those 5 uses. And I think you'll see just a slight little disturbance in the center of that pan. I am using a pretty scratchy pinpointed brush, but not much of a dip at all. I believe this one's going to be pretty tricky for me to hit pan on, even to hit those 30 uses on. I just need to remember to reach for this more as a neutral and blend it in with browns and other neutral colors to tone down the red if I don't want like a pink red look, you know, which I'm not really wanting very much these days, but I'm confident I can do that. I just need to be a little bit more creative and a little bit more bold reaching for it. Bold, but also light-handed is the key with a shade like this. The 2 other shades I had pan on, Cosmopolitan and Artemis, those were shimmers and they weren't very easy to hit pan on. You can see how deep they are in the size of that pan. I hope you can see how deep the pan is in these shades. So pan on Mars is probably a pretty lofty goal to aspire to, but I will hit those 30 uses hopefully by the end of the year. And in the meantime, this is such a great palette, fun to have around. So I have just that one palette rolling out without a pan on it, but that's okay. And then those 3 palettes that came in last month are still in, no surprise there. That means I get to draw 1 new palette, and this will be a randomly generated palette. But first, let's talk about my pan percentage. I have an arbitrary goal. I already hit it, I believe. My goal is to hit 20% this year, and I knew I was gonna hit it pretty quickly, so I decided to up my goal unofficially, officially. Now my new unofficial goal, official goal, doesn't matter, is 22%. I'm just kind of, you know, shooting for the moon, hoping to land amongst the stars. And I don't know if that's going to happen, but in the meantime, it's just fun to track these pans numerically as well as visually. At the beginning of the year, my eyeshadow collection had 435 individual shades of eyeshadow, and I started off with a pan percentage of 15.63%. Last month, I had up to 89 shades with pan in them out of those 435, bringing my pan percentage to 20.46%. So I went above my goal. I think I had like 5 new pans last month, which was very exciting. This month, not as exciting. As you know, we didn't hit any pans in this project, but I did hit a pan in my Pan That Palette series, the final pan to hit in that palette, which just feels very great. If you're not watching my Pan That Palette series, please check it out. I'll link it right up here in the cards, and you can see me pan an entire palette over the course of the year. You know, we love these long-term goals. They are very hard work, but they're satisfying. So check that out if you have not seen it. So that shade was Terracotta. So I did hit one new pan, bringing my total pans up to 90 out of my 435 eyeshadows. So I jumped from 20.46% up to 20.69%. Not a huge jump with just that one additional pan, but I'm hoping I'll be able to add a few more in this next month, hopefully in Credit and Starstruck at the very least. That'll put me just over 21% and that much closer to 22%. Unfortunate news is that none of those pans are going to be coming from my Pan That palette. That was definitely like my money maker, helping boost my pan percentage over the course of the year. And now that that is all spent, it's going to be a little bit more tricky to get those numbers. Now let's talk about some of the eyeshadow shades that I've created over the past month. I love sharing my favorite looks with you and kind of describing how I was able to use the shades in this project. So here is the first look that I loved. It's a green with a warm crease. I do have Bloom in the crease for this look, but it's very hard to tell because I have it mixed in with a lot of neutral browns. It just kind of added a little bit of warmth to the look, and I think it was very effective. I think the pinkish tone plays really beautifully with the green, and I love wearing green looks with my green eyes. I think it really does kind of draw in and accent the green even that much more. So I absolutely loved this look. I had to share it with all of you. This look also has Bloom all throughout the crease. You can definitely see the pink tones in there. I have a pink shimmer covering the outer part of the lid, and then the inner part of the lid, you can see I have Starstruck to add that nice gold sunset reflect on that inner corner. This is my fall 2015 look. I wore this look in one of my recent videos. I think it might have been my deca panning. And this look just screams that era of makeup in my opinion. And many of you agreed with me. Thank you. And as you can probably tell, I am using this entire palette of eyeshadows in this eyeshadow look. You can see Bloom up there in the upper part, like that first transition. You can see Mars deepening up that crease. You can see Credit really adding that depth. And then of course you can see Starstruck all over the lid, that gold shimmering star that she is. And this was a very, like, you know, fun throwback look. I really enjoyed creating the look of nothing else. I don't know if I love wearing it so much, but it looked good on camera. This is the look I wore when I went to see Wicked this past weekend. I kind of was trying to give off a Glinda vibe. My girlfriend was Elphaba. I will insert a picture here of our little cosplay when we went to the theater. Aren't we so cute? So I was just feeling pink and ethereal vibes, and I had so many pinks to play with, as you know. So Bloom is in this look as a crease shade. Mars is in this look as a deepening shade, and then there are other pinks on the lid, pinks and purples kind of. And I love this look so much that I had to take two sets of pictures because you can see one version and then here is the second version. I went ahead and added some gems to this look to really just add that whimsy to it and make it that much more special for a very special show. So really love that look. So much fun going to the theater. It's one of my favorite ways to spend my very limited expendable income. Those are all my looks. Let me know your favorites in the comments. I love hearing from you, and always feel free to give me any recommendations of looks that I should create. I get some of my best ideas from you all, so thank you in advance for all that. And now we've come to the most fun part of the video. Let's randomly select an eyeshadow palette and then a shade to work on in this project. Here is my Tiny Decisions wheel with all of my eyeshadow palettes in them. There are a total of 30 eyeshadow palettes in there right now, but I do have a few of them blacked out, which include the palettes that are already in this project, as well as my Nomad Cosmetics Haunted Europe palette, which is my deca panning, and then my e.l.f. Jalapeno, which is still my project level up. I don't know if I'm ever gonna level up this year, but it is in that project. So everything else is fair game to come into this project. So let's first select that palette. Here we go. I'm hoping it's something new. I'm not looking yet. Oh my gosh, the KVD Shade and Light. That's a tricky one. She's an oldie. Okay, painting gods, fine. It's just like a neutral palette, and that could be a good thing. You know, maybe I need a little bit of neutral in my life right about now. There she is, this palette. Oh, this palette, she's been with me for years. I think I've had this palette since right after it came out, 2015 maybe. It's been a long time. Well, it came out a long time ago, but I've had it for a long time and I loved it for a long time and I've gotten a ton of use on it, but you hardly can tell. And I had a pan on here that broke and then had to repress, so I lost a pan on this one. And this palette has always been on the chopping block for the past several years. It's just been on the back of my mind of like, if I was to get rid of something clean. I could get rid of this, but I use this palette as my play palette. I bring it with me on every trip where we're doing like a lot of cosplay makeup, Halloween. This is like my go-to play palette. It's so good for shading on the face. There's so many great shades in here for, you know, really changing the shape of your face. And there's so much product in here that I don't care if I go crazy on it and use it on all of my friends. So with that, I don't want to say it's a love-hate. It's like a not fully love, but maybe I do love it. You know, maybe I just need to admit that I love this palette. Anyways, all that to say, here's what this palette is looking like today. It does have a couple of pans on it. It has been in Pan That Palette a few times before, or no, Pan Those Eyeshadows. I have a pan on this little shade here, Samael. I can never say that when it first was in this project either. And then I also have a pan on this one here, which is Succubus. And I used to have a pan once upon a time on this shade here, which is Ludwin. It had a ton of use on it, got a really nice pan, and then broke, and I salvaged it. So now it's panless, but it's still a very loved shade. So that means it's eligible to be rolled into this project. There are 12 shades in here. Only 10 of them are eligible. So let's put in 1 through 10 and see what the panning gods have in store for me. I'm probably not going to pan the black. I'll say that right now. I mean, we'll just see what else happens. Okay, so let's put in the numbers 1 through 10 and let's see what comes in. Number 1. Okay, well, you know what? That is probably the easiest shade that they could possibly have selected for me. It is this first shade here, kind of like a yellow banana powder type eyeshadow. And this is called Lattice, I believe is how it's pronounced. And I think I was given a bit of a softball there, which I'm grateful for. This will be perfect to set my lid, perfect to blend out my crease. It'll be really easy to reach for. I could even see myself using this on my under eye if I do it lightly enough. So excited to have this one out. It'll be great to have a new pan on here and to give this old palette some new attention. So that is my next shade. And it is very much like a bone yellow toned cream shade. There it is. Very exciting, right? I mean, not the most exciting for Pan Those Eyeshadows, but this project, while it is great to push my creativity, it's also nice just to get used on something and to hit a pan on it without too much effort. So that'll be really fun to work on. So here is the outgoing color palette we are saying goodbye to, and let's all say hello to this new color palette. It's very primary colors, you know, I'm getting like Spanish flag vibes, kind of like tribal colors a little bit, but I'm really enjoying it. It's not going to be the most exciting, but it is very user-friendly, very easy to reach for, and I think that I'll get to just kind of have fun with other things that I'm working on currently alongside these shades. So that is very exciting, also very work-friendly, which I'm kind of in need of right now. That's all for my Pan Those Eyeshadows update this month. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give it a quick thumbs up before you leave. It really would help me out a lot, but I appreciate you so much just for being here and watching this video all the way to the end. You are a real one. I'm sending my love out to you wherever you are in the world this video finds you, and I hope to see you in my next video. But until then, take care. Bye. Those swatchy, messy hands.